What up, everybody? This is Double G for FGB Radio, talking specifically tonight the Money in the Bank show, the WWE show from Philadelphia, which is, for me, one of the more exciting pay-per-views of the year. I think it's the gimmick. It's a gimmick that still works for them that they have not yet ruined. So, joining with me, the Dirty White Boy. It's been a while. The last time we talked together, it was the Payback show. So, how's it going?
Going quite well. We just maybe an hour or so ago just finished that pay-per-view Money in the Bank, and I thought it was a pretty interesting show, and I would agree with you for a pay-per-view in the summertime when, business is down. I think it's still one that they've done a good job at marketing. So, and it does, get some juices flowing with people coming, and plus I think they've been putting it in proper locations with good wrestling fans, so helps with the show as a whole.
So for me, the story of the night was that the crowd specifically was hot for certain guys like Daniel Bryan, RVD. I think I didn't get to see the pre-show, but I imagine that they would have been hot for the Shield. And Cody Rhodes, I think he was booked very well tonight, and they were really hot for him. Mark Henry. But outside of those guys, they just were waiting for that main event to come on.
Oh, yeah. After the first ladder match, it took for a very, very long time for me to get back into the show. It was a lot of that, middle portion, a lot of dragging.
All right, so the big news out of the show, the two Money in the Bank winners, the first one was Damien Sandow, and I wouldn't say it was a surprise because I saw a lot of people were picking him to win this match. The way that they did it, though, was very creative. They had Cody Rhodes was the star of the whole match. He looked like he was going to win, and then they had Damien Sandow come in at the end and kind of steal it from him. So it was a very Sandow-ish way to win that match, and you have Cody Rhodes, who, maybe has turned babyface. At least I hope, because the way that he wrestled tonight was probably the best that I've seen him in a very long time. And then the other Money in the Bank match was Randy Orton, who, interestingly enough, I think most people would have not wanted to see him win this match, just because he's always at the top of the food chain in WWE, and he doesn't really have to win this match. It's usually to set up guys, who maybe haven't gotten that break or whatever. But in this All-Stars match, I think most of these guys are at a level where if they didn't win, it still doesn't hurt them. But I actually predicted either Bryan or Orton to win this match. And the reason why I had Orton high on my list is because I thought everyone else kind of had a program to go to after this and didn't really need it, such as, CM Punk, and hopefully we see the Brock Lesnar stuff start to pick up. And then, RVD kind of comes in, and I think if he would have won it, it would have been a little bit too much, because I think he's going to be one of those guys like Jericho, where he's not going to be here all the time, but he's going to be around enough to where he's always going to get that pop. But if you overdo it with RVD, he could lose a little steam. So I didn't think it was a good time for him to win it. But I think Daniel Bryan was the perfect guy, and for whatever reason, they just decided to detour on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. And the guy, I think, seemed that they're setting him up in the program next with, I found kind of odd. Not upset, but I just found weird that they'd go in that direction. But I don't know, Orton, just the second most boring guy, or second the worst guy in that match, and we went with him. I don't know. I mean, if it means what I think it could mean, that Heyman's going to potentially manage Randy Orton, I'm okay with it, because I think that's the only way I can get into Randy Orton. But if it's not that, I mean, good Lord.
All right, we'll go from the beginning to the end here. But the one thing I wanted to point out is, if the idea with Orton is that he holds on to this briefcase and waits to see what happens at SummerSlam, and let's say that it's Cena and Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam, and then he decides after SummerSlam that he wants to then invoke his briefcase and contract, and it's Orton and Bryan as a program for the title. That's not terrible, because as they showed us these last few weeks, They're a pretty intriguing matchup for whatever reason. In in the Raw matches and the SmackDown matches, there's intrigue there. So if they do that, I sort of get it. But if they don't do that, I don't get it at all.
Yeah, definitely would agree. I think a real interesting program is that Orton Bryan one, just because they've had so much chemistry the past month or so on TV.
All right, so let's go from the top. The Shield beat the Usos. Like I said, I didn't see that match, but I heard from a few people who were there live, and they said that was a really good match. Did you get to watch it?
No, I did not get to see the match, but I mean, both those teams are filled with strong workers, so I figured it'd be a fine match.
Yeah, from what I read, they built to the Usos just really beating down on. I think it was probably Rollins. It's always Rollins, and then Roman Reigns was tagged in, or maybe he blind tagged in and hit the spear on one of the Usos for the win. But so I have a friend who was out there, and he said that it was a really good match, and he was actually worried about the opening match to follow it for the live crowd. But I think they did a pretty good job with the first Money in the Bank. So this first Money in the Bank is, I guess, the Future Stars version, if the other version is the All Stars version. So you had Fandango, Ambrose, and Ambrose just stayed there. Like, it was really weird. Like, at the end of right before the show started, they had 2 minutes before the show started, they had Ambrose in the ring just waiting because the Shield had already finished wrestling, so he's just waiting. And then they actually announce and play the music for Fandango before the pay-per-view actually starts. So when you see the pay-per-view starting, Fandango and Ambrose are already in the ring, and so then the announcer has to reintroduce them. But if you had seen the pre-show stuff, then you would have seen them already come down. So that was kind of weird to start the show. But Fandango, Ambrose, Jack Swagger, and Cesaro both came out together with Zeb, and Zeb cut a quick promo for them. And then Ambrose and Cody both came in together, and then Wade Barrett came in at the end. And I noticed Ambrose was wearing some different colored tights. I don't remember him wearing these on Raw. Maybe I just missed it. But he had black tights with the either purple or pink knee pads. So I thought, he looks a little different here. That could signify something. And then Barrett came in, and I thought Wade looked really awesome, because if you look at the style of this matchup, like, you have the sort of the two tag teams. And then Fandango, who's not really a tough guy, but Wade Barrett looked just like an ass beater, just being with all those guys. And Swagger, I think he could fit that role, but they've just de-pushed him so many times. And though Cesaro is probably the real deal, he didn't really do a whole lot except for take that package suplex on the ladder from Cody, which was probably the best spot in the whole match. But just quickly, a couple of cool spots. Ambrose with the skin the cat on top of the ladder. They had to actually do it twice. Cesaro and Swagger were holding the ladder upright, and Ambrose did a little skin the cat deal on it. I said the package suplex. And then Rhodes and Ambrose were fighting on top of the ladder, and Rhodes actually got busted open over his eyebrow. It looked like a boxing cut. Actually, you see them happen in boxing sometimes. The Shield and the Usos came in. Rhodes had the tall ladder, and he was by himself, ready to get the briefcase. And all of a sudden, Michael Cole absolutely ruined the finish for me, because he starts screaming that Cody Rhodes is going to win this match. And he's just overselling the thing all to hell. And then Ambrose came in and pushed him off and grabbed the suitcase himself, or the briefcase himself. So, pretty good match to start. What did you think about the match overall? And did Michael Cole ruin it for you as well?
Michael Cole didn't ruin it for me. I think he ruined it for me in terms of the Caitlyn match, which we'll get to. But I thought this match was really, really good. They did some, pretty innovative spots with, Dean Ambrose, who's clearly a guy that they have big plans for in the future. One of the spots that, it wasn't massive, but I think they did this thing where I think Swagger yanked Barrett off the ladder, and Cesaro killed him with an uppercut, like a European uppercut. Like, I thought he died. It was that nasty. But yeah, Cody definitely came off as a big star, and he really worked as the baby face. And you knew Sandow was going to win when they showed him just hiding behind, and like they made sure to cut to him. It's like, just got to remember to have that in the back of your mind that he's going to come in. But so pretty good athleticism stuff. I mean, a great way to open the show. I thought, for heels and stuff like that, they all got their time to shine. And the thing I was impressed the most with was when the Shield did their run in, they actually kind of got some heat on them. They were upset that they were trying to ruin Cody Rhodes' moment. But strong match and a great way to kick off the pay-per-view.
All right, so Dean Ambrose, what do you think they're going to do with Ambrose? He has not been built as a contender yet. I think if they do anything with him trying to cash in on Del Rio, it would be a mistake. Obviously, they're both heels. If Ziggler was to win the title somehow and he cashed in on Ziggler, I think for the right crowd, he could get a great pop. But then what do you do with him as the champion? Like, that's the only problem I have with Ambrose. As a character, he's really good, but he just hasn't been booked very well at all. Like, I just always go back to, when DX came back for that one Raw and he just gets killed by everybody and is treated kind of like the joke. So what would you do with him? And do you feel like they just kind of put the Money in the Bank stuff on hold and all of a sudden he and Cody heat up?
I think obviously that's the plan. You can't just have him go in there and just start cashing it in right away. I wouldn't want to do that. I think the Cody feud for a while has to happen because that's the perfect guy for Cody to start the babyface-ness to have happen. Yeah,
I agree. And yeah, lot of interest in Cody after this show again. That was Big D's pick to win it, and at some point when it looked like Cody was going to win it, I think he was getting very excited so he could say "I told you so" to everybody, but then he lost.
Yeah.
All right. So second match on this show was actually before the second match, Brad Maddox came out and did a 1990. Or
97 Eric Bischoff.
Well, before, so I think it's two. I think it was like two versions of Bischoff meshed into one, because when he came out, I automatically thought of the early Bischoff when he was doing announcing, where he would just oversell everything as the greatest thing, and he had this like salesman-y personality. And then when he became an actual character, and then he became like the slimy Bischoff, like I sort of saw both of those guys in Maddox, but that's definitely who he was channeling. Like, he studied his Eric Bischoff tapes before he came out today to do the preview, or to do the promo. And so he comes out for, he was out there forever, it felt like. And the basic thing was he was out there to say thank you to Vicky Guerrero in like a very wink, wink, nudge, nudge ways. They did a promo package for Vicky. They did a video package where they showed like all of her worst moments in WWE, and that was Brad Maddox's way of saying thank you to Vicky for, being the GM that he now has to follow. And he made this horrible joke about how he can't follow in her footsteps because he can't wear high heels, and it was like this stupid Bischoff like guffaw, like this laugh that was like, oh gosh, this is Eric Bischoff. So I thought it was a waste of time. I would have rather seen this on Raw. I was like thinking like they better not cut time from any of these matches for this stupid promo.
Yeah, that was the one thing I think a lot of people were worried about. I was okay with it to start, but then it just kept going on and on and on, and I was just like, you're still pretty terrible at promos, Brad. I mean, Christ, you just kept leading us nowhere for like 30 minutes, it seemed.
And it's uncomfortable because it feels like he screws up, but then I'm like thinking, maybe that's what he's supposed to do, is screw up on purpose to make himself look inadequate and not good for the job. But like it just feels uncomfortable.
I'm pretty sure he's also going to get heat because he called the Titantron the Jumbotron. Yeah. And Vince is like, that's the Titantron.
I saw that. Okay, so now let's move into the second match, which was The Miz and Curtis Axel. And so I'm not sure, like, who called what and who decided what was going to happen, but this crowd was definitely here to see Paul Heyman, do his thing. They were so pro Paul. And so either they decided to have Heyman leave this match because they wanted to have like the big setup at the end with him as he interfered in the main event, the All-Stars Money in the Bank match, or they thought it was a good way for Miz to get some sort of heat, but then again, Miz is the babyface. So they're on the outside of the ring, and Heyman is maybe 10 feet from the Miz. And so the Miz like makes this noise that would sound like, I guess, somebody got punched, and he takes a back bump on the outside and just like gets up holding his mouth basically. And so this is to signify to the referee that Paul Heyman, of all people, threw the greatest right hand of all time to knock the Miz down outside the ring. And if Heyman had a phone, that's believable. But I've seen Paul Heyman throw punches, and he's not knocking down you or I with his right hand. So I thought that was really dumb because the crowd immediately started to chant we want Heyman or something after Heyman had to leave because the referee said you have to go to the back. If this was like a different crowd who hated Paul Heyman, then I guess that would sort of work, but this crowd was like very hot for Heyman, and they hated The Miz for doing that. And The Miz is supposed to be the babyface. So at this point I thought, gosh, this guy's winning this title. Like, this is just an excuse for Axel to lose. Didn't happen, though Miz did kick out of the perfect plex. There was a figure four spot where Axel turned the figure four over, and I thought The Miz was going to be the first guy to tap out, putting on the figure four and getting it turned over on him. I wanted to see it so badly. Didn't happen. He gets it turned back on him, and then Axel figures a way out of it, and he hit. What is his finisher called? The Rude Awakening reversal slam.
I don't think that has a name because I think they're still going with the perfect flex as his finish, but now he's been hitting that recently.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty cool finisher. Like he gets him up for the Rude Awakening, and at the very end when he's about to drop him on the back of their head, he turns them, and then it's sort of like the RKO thing. So it's like it's pretty cool. It looks a little clumsy sometimes.
It looked clumsy here because Miz is an idiot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I was telling some of the people who I was with. One of them was not a wrestling fan. It was a girlfriend of one of the guys who came over. And at some point, because we were all just so down on Miz, like my problem with the Miz is every opponent he gets, he brings them down a level instead of raises them up a level. Like Wade Barrett, was in worse place after dealing with the Miz, and guys like that. So then I told her, I said, I wouldn't be I wouldn't have been all that bummed out if the Miz took 3 months off to defend his Real World Road Rules Challenge Championship and go back to the MTV show for 3 months. She got it. She liked that because then she went, oh yeah, that's where I know that guy from. So yeah, to normal folks, Miz is still more well known as a guy on MTV's Challenge reality TV show than he is as a WWE wrestler.
Well, yeah, but I mean, God, he's terrible. His, just like we had that awful segment with Maddox, and then you hear his theme music, and he came out in this stupid jacket. Just not a good segue from a great match, basically. And yeah, I mean, it's like I want to like Curtis Axel, but like the past week of TV where he loses twice, and then he's in air against the Miz. Like, my God, thank God at the end of the pay-per-view brought my faith back up, but my Christ.
He also has an interesting personality because his dad, the way his dad acted was, his dad pretty much acted like your normal jock. Sort of like how Ziggler acts today, but Ziggler was a little bit more over the top. But he always had this smirk on his face like, I'm just better than you, so that's why I'm going to win. And Axel really doesn't have a personality yet. Like, he just kind of looks gruff and hides behind that beard, and he'll try to do stuff, but it doesn't really work. Like, I really wonder if he's going to be able to pull off the character, because there's really no depth to his character yet, and I'm a little worried that they're going to quickly get bored with him in that spot.
Well, the thing is, it's not supposed to be like Mr. Perfect, so at least that helps. It's just his personality is so far just like, I scream when I come out.
Yeah, but who, who does that? Like, usually, like, the Rybacks of the world do that, and not someone who's supposed to be a really good wrestling machine. Like, the really good wrestling machine, unless his name is Dean Malenko, like, he can't really not have a personality. Like, he has to have some sort of personality. Like, you look at someone like Jericho, and Jericho's like has a smarmy personality. Like, he believes in himself, and he like makes fun of the heels. And like Ziggler's like an over the top, really weird mishmash of like Mr. Perfect and badass Billy Gunn all into one. And so I'm like looking at Axel and going, okay, like, where is your character going to go? Is your character just going to be Mr. Serious Guy? Is he going to be a badass ass kicker? Is he going to be like a super technical wrestler? Like, there's really you can't label him yet.
Yeah, I guess you can't. You can't label him yet, but there's still. I mean, the character just came back like to TV a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
So there's still time.
You just don't want to be labeled as vanilla. Like, that's the worst place to be.
No, I'm not disagreeing.
All right, so third match is AJ against Caitlyn, and I don't think that this was quite as good as their last match at Payback. Like, I thought that match was actually pretty darn good. But still, I think this was quality wrestling. Like, I didn't feel like, this was a waste of my time at all. In fact, this match was better than The Miz and Axel. I wished Miz and Axel would have been on the pre-show in which we could have seen the Shield. But AJ, they are getting AJ's finisher over for sure, because she keeps beating this large woman with the Black Widow, and the large woman is like defenseless against this move.
Yes, as well, the large woman blew out her elbow throwing a spear on TV. So she needs to work.
Did she blow it out?
Well, she hyperextended it or something like that.
Was it in tonight's match?
No, it was like at the taping.
Oh, okay, got it.
So that's why she had the elbow pad on. So then they put that into the story. And then this is where Michael Cole was an idiot. Because she's got... The finish obviously was AJ had the Black Widow or whatever it's called. I can't remember the proper name of it. But anyway, so she's got the good arm of Caitlyn as like the arm she's holding, and it's up in the air. And then Cole just goes, AJ working on that bad arm. I'm like, she's got a brace on the one arm that's clearly down. Like, you can tell, like, Cole, like, Jesus God, man. Awful.
So what do you think about I was talking to the guys who were over, and I was watching AJ and thinking, like, I know Lita was a big influence with her, but she sort of reminds me like of a female like Hardy Boy. Like, just the way that she sells, like the way she takes that spear like better than anybody right now. Like, she takes it and she throws herself back. And then I noticed that she does a lot of the hair flip stuff that like Jeff Hardy and Lita both, would do in their matches. And she reminded me of like a female Jeff Hardy, though she doesn't do the flying stuff, obviously. But just the way that she sells and the way that she moves around the ring, she seems to be heavily influenced by both Jeff Hardy and Lita.
Yes, I know she's a big Attitude Era fan of like those type mid-card people. So, I mean, it really is shown. She bumps and sells like maybe the best person in the company right now, I have to say.
And she's so small. Every time she bumps, I think she's going to get hurt.
Well, that's true.
All right, so match was pretty good. I don't know where else they go with Caitlyn. Maybe Layla comes in and tries to... I don't know. I can't imagine Layla really doing much right now. They don't really have anybody else kind of teed up to work with AJ, so I imagine that we're going to continue this thing because there's a sort of like a triangle of things going on here because you have AJ and Caitlyn, and then you have AJ and Dolph, and then you have Caitlyn and Big E. They're always kind of like running into each other, so there's stuff to do there. So even if Caitlyn has lost 2 matches in a row, I still think she can be involved in this program at some point still.
I think we'll figure it out on the premiere episode of Total Divas.
I know, that's like in 2 weeks.
Are you going to watch the show?
I sure hope not.
I will check out at least the first episode, and then I'll probably just be mortified by it and just never.
The only thing, I'm interested in 2 things. One, if they show John Cena with whichever Bella he hangs out with these days.
According to the trailer, yes.
And how much Daniel Bryan and TJ Wilson are in this show.
TJ Wilson? Really? He's going to be in the show?
Well, supposedly, all the wedding stuff with Natalia was filmed.
Yes. Tyson Kid, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, apparently, I don't know. It seems it's like the Funkadactyls and...
that stuff looked completely fake.
It was. How was it not? It was just like, oh, we're not going to practice our routine right now. Oh, you know what? I got beef with you because you don't want to practice the routine. Just the worst shit ever.
Yeah, totally bad. All right, so this next match was Chris Jericho versus a broomstick, because there's no way that anybody could have been worse than the Ryback on this show. He was awful. Like, he was out of place. He was, like, slow to stuff. Like, there's a spot where Jericho came off the top for, like, an axe handle, and, like, Ryback was just supposed to, like, pull his head to, like, drape him, like, sort of stun gun him on the rope. And, like, Ryback was so late that Jericho already hit the ropes, and then Ryback grabbed him and made him hit the ropes again. Like, it was not in sync at all. And I was just watching this. Then, there's another spot where Ryback like slips in the corner. He was just so awkward and so clumsy in this match. Jericho did his very best to get something out of it, though. He was continually like, he was just moving constantly. Like, he didn't really let Ryback's slowness deter him. Like, he was just constantly moving, constantly hitting moves, constantly selling, constantly getting thrown. And the finish was so weird because here you have this big, powerful Ryback who does the, he did that snatch powerbomb to Jericho where he kind of held him and picked him up off the mat in the powerbomb position and powerbombed him again. And so you have this big, like, he's doing these power moves. And the way that he wins is Jericho gets ready to do the lion salt. Ryback moves before Jericho even hits the bottom rope, so Jericho does the flip onto his feet, and he kind of loses his balance, and then Ryback just rolls him up. And that's the way that he wins this match. Like, such a weird way for your power monster to beat Chris Jericho.
Well, to use a quote from Bobby Heenan, WrestleMania 9, he beat the wrestler with wrestling.
He did.
So he beat the wrestler with wrestling. So I think maybe that's what they may go with. That he's not just a big, stupid monster. He's actually quite intelligent and a smart person to capitalize.
So should that be his gimmick from now on, is that he just does chain wrestling in the ring?
No, I'm not saying that, but he's a heel. He's smart and realizes situations.
But it's not like he even, like, went to the back, like, pointing to his temple, like, ha, 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 I got you. He would just, like, walk to the back, like, exhausted and exasperated and just, like, I can't believe how many times I fucked up in the ring tonight.
Yeah, because he's Ryback and he's useless.
I know.
That character, from main eventing a pay-per-view to just random Chris Jericho match.
Well, I think somebody had tweeted today that he had lost every single pay-per-view match since last year's Money in the Bank.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So that's just what a ridiculous way to build this guy up. Then again, like, I don't really care because I don't think he's any good, and I never thought he was good. I thought, he had gotten hot at some point, so maybe you do something, but they were able to see him probably for what he was because they never put the belt on him. They didn't have him beat Punk when Punk was hurt. They didn't even have him win the Royal Rumble. So, They've sort of kept him at a certain level, and maybe until he continues improving, maybe he needs to go to the new WWE Performance Center and work on his art.
That Performance Center, I mean, it's going to bring greatness back like the power plant. I mean, we're going to see quality tag teams like High Voltage that came out of the WCW power plant, so I'm ready.
Who can, didn't Chael Sonnen say that he actually went to the power plant like near the end?
No, I never heard that.
Yeah, he was on an interview with somebody, and I think he said like he actually worked out at the power plant like at some point.
That's awesome. Well, obviously DDP got better there, and Bob Sapp came from the power plant, or got some training at the power plant.
Yeah, that's where he learned. That's where he learned how to job in MMA from city to city, is from the power plant.
Yes.
All right. So the fifth match, Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio, and this had all the makings of the steal the show match from the get-go. Ziggler looked super into this match. He was just on fire for most of it. I think you actually tweeted out that it was like 1995 Shawn Michaels or something.
Yeah, he had that 95 Shawn feel to it. I don't know if you noticed it, but I felt he did.
And so, I mean, to me, he was, he and Cody and Daniel Bryan were probably the three best guys on the show tonight. But, they just saddled him with such like a lame finish. They had the match was just a bunch of near falls, a bunch of close to finish moves, but I never thought that any of the moves were actually going to end the match. And I don't know if it's because I just expected either AJ or Big E to come out, and so I was just waiting for that to happen. So I was never really sold on that the match was ending, and that may have hurt it a little bit for me. But otherwise, like the guys were working really well together. Like usually I'm kind of cold on Del Rio as a wrestler, but I think tonight with Ziggler, I thought he picked up the pace, and he definitely carried his half of the match with Dolph, and really it was just letting Dolph just do everything, but he wasn't in the wrong spot. Like he was he was with the timing, everything was solid there. But then the finish happens, and AJ comes out. Ziggler is screaming at her like, I can do this by myself. Like, I told you not to come out. And she kind of like looks worried or scared or maybe sad, but she never leaves. Like, she stays there. And so then he stopped yelling at her. Like, I know he saw her still out there, but he was just like, okay, I got to go back to wrestling this match. And so Ziggler, I think Del Rio like threw a super kick or something, and Ziggler caught it. And like he turned him back, and then AJ was in the ring, and she clocked Del Rio with the belt, causing the disqualification. And so I was thinking, if they wanted to do a DQ, or maybe if they not necessarily a DQ, but if they wanted to get the Team Ziggler involved, I was thinking like Big E was going to do something to cause him to get pinned, or AJ was going to do something to cause him to get pinned. And instead, they went with the AJ is crazy, and thus she does something so illogical that your announcers can't even explain it. And they basically just go, I have no idea why AJ did that. And I think that was such a bad way to end this match.
Yeah, the ending was weird. I mean, it felt like you do that on, like, say you have the match announced for Raw or SmackDown, but you do it on SmackDown or Raw on free TV, not on a pay-per-view, because you want decisive finishes. So I wasn't a fan of that, but the match was fantastic, minus once AJ came down.
Yeah, no, I mean, it had all the makings of like, this thing is gonna steal the show. But I think because of that finish, like I don't think it was the best match on the show. Probably the main event, the All-Stars elimination, or the All-Stars Money in the Bank ladder match, is probably the best in my opinion. But this one should have been, because it had everything going for it until that finish.
Well, I'm going to say that match put a heartbeat back in this pay-per-view, because I was struggling there for a bit.
Yeah, They got rid of the Miz match second. I mean, it really did kill things for a while. And the AJ Caitlyn was fine, but it did not, it wasn't what the fans were looking for. And, Jericho with anybody else, how well he worked tonight would have got them back in it, but he had Ryback. So, yeah, you're right. This was the match that got them back into the show. And then we had the WWE title match with Mark Henry against John Cena. And I thought they told a really good story, even though there wasn't much action to the match really at all. It was really slow, and the build-up was that Henry was beating on Cena, and there were a couple times where Cena was like, oh, here's my Hail Mary attempt to win this match, and he would get Mark Henry on his shoulders or not. And there's the one time where Mark Henry fell on his, he had Cena fall on his face. And so finally, after several minutes of this, finally Cena does get him up and gives him the attitude adjustment, but Mark Henry kicks out. And so then Cena goes to the top and he jumps, and I was thinking, is he doing the leg drop? Like, what is he doing? And he just jumps into the air for no reason whatsoever, and Mark Henry catches him for the world's strongest slam, and Cena screws up the near fall here, at least to me, because I thought they could have done the 2 9/10 near fall here to get the fans to really believe that Henry was going to win the match. But Cena the referee's hand hits 2 and Cena's already kicked out. So I was like, man, why didn't you just wait a little bit longer? And so then Cena puts him in the STFU. Henry gets the ropes. Henry goes for another World's Strongest Slam, but Cena slips out, puts on the STFU again, and this time Henry taps out. Now, I'm of the opinion that the STFU is the single worst move in WWE because it does nothing. He basically chin locks the guy and holds his leg back, and that's it. And so the way that Cena sells this move as something of a submission is he locks it on, he locks the hands underneath the chin, and he doesn't even pull up. Instead, he screams and opens his mouth really wide and just goes, ah! And that is to signify that he's doing some serious damage to his foe. That thing sucks. Why does he keep doing this move?
I guess trying to show that he's a wrestler? I don't know.
But the STF, when Masa Chono and even Eric Watts did it not look like they were actually separate? Like,
I don't think we're trying to compare John Cena to Masahiro Chono. I mean, they're two different people, but
that's who he's stealing the move from.
Well, I don't think Chono is the one he's stealing. He's probably stealing it from the likes of Eric Watts or something. I don't know.
So you're telling me that when Eric Watts was on Team Techno 2000 or whatever team he was on, that he and John Cena had a beer one day, and Eric Watts was like, "I need to show you this move that I really liked doing in 1992 WCW."
I'm pretty sure that they were not in the same realm. I don't even think John could have beers back then, but I feel he's like, hey, that's a good-looking move. I'm going to take it, even though I'm going to have no idea how to do it.
The other thing is that his arms and his shoulders are so big that he can't even really get the arms in the correct position because he's too buff. So this looks ridiculous. Okay, off the soapbox, John Cena wins the match. I think most people figured this was going to happen. I actually predicted that Henry was going to win and that Cena was going to win it back quickly, like on Raw or something, because I thought just they did such a good job with Henry's character and the promos, and he just seemed like he was, the best Mark Henry that he's ever been, and yet the best Mark Henry still not going to beat John Cena, who is setting up for SummerSlam. So I don't know what they do here. I would assume they don't put them back together. Does Henry retire? Does he go away? Does he, find another babyface to beat on? I'm not sure, but it's kind of a shame that this version of Mark Henry, who is the best version of Mark Henry and the one that is probably the most effective, that they just don't really have room for him to do what he should do.
Yeah, I don't know. This was A fine match. I wasn't mad with it. The crowd was into it because it's Philly and Cena, and there's people just hating him because he's not a good wrestler or whatnot, which I think is kind of dumb. But because he's obviously not supposed to be that. He's supposed to, sell tickets and stuff like that and be, the next generation Hogan. But God, man, just I don't know. I was fine with the match. I agree with you that the finish is kind of dumb, and the story in the match where like he can't get Henry up. It's like I've seen him get Henry up like 5,000 times for the FU.
Yeah, but that was the old Henry. This is the new and improved.
So
mean Henry.
But he was still a heel.
Yeah, I know.
So what? Just because he got a little bit more mean and he put on his pink suit like 3 weeks ago, that's gonna affect the ability of this? I don't know.
Well, that was like me when I was a kid when I watched Hogan slam Andre, like all 550 pounds of Andre, and then anytime he ever struggled in a body slam spot ever again, I was like, no, that's not that. You slammed the heaviest guy ever. That should never happen.
That, I guess, is that's definitely what it was just so infuriating. But God,
but they do that spot so well though.
Oh, I'm not saying they don't. I mean, Henry's obviously improved. It's like, did Cena miss a cycle or something? That's why he can't do it.
All right, so main event. RVD, Christian, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, Sheamus, CM Punk, no replacement for Kane. Did you think they were going to replace him? And who were you actually hoping to see in this match?
I did think they were going to replace him just because they cut this. They showed like a Wyatt family promo video, and I'm like, oh, maybe one of them are going to be in it, but didn't happen.
I actually thought I was thinking maybe MVP comes out. Like it would be a good way to introduce him back into WWE in a good spot because since it was the All Stars match, but if it wasn't someone super important. I didn't want to see anybody else in the match because I thought 7 guys is enough, or 6 guys is enough, and they didn't need to add a 7th unless it was a super important guy to bring in that you could pop, and that. But then again, they did that with RVD, so that wasn't really necessary either because you don't really want to ruin his return by bringing in like another guy who's the secret guy who's the one that gets trending on Twitter. So I was fine with the 6. So this match, they told several stories in this match. One of them was the Daniel Bryan sort of goes crazy and with the comebacks, and they actually incorporated it into a ladder match, which I thought was actually really creative and inventive because when he's in the tag matches against the Shield. And he does the crazy comeback stuff, like they were able to get it into this ladder match, and it worked out really well. And then there was the story of CM Punk and Paul Heyman, which was actually near the end of the match when Daniel Bryan was about to win, and Curtis Axel comes out with a chair and takes out Bryan. We assume that he was told to take out Bryan by Paul Heyman, and that Paul Heyman was a little worried that Punk wasn't going to win the match. So then Heyman comes out, and he starts screaming at Axel. And I didn't really understand this because if Axel didn't do that because of Heyman's, because Heyman wanted him to, then why did he do it? Because it did actually help Punk get in the ring. So I wasn't quite sure what he was yelling at him about, I only care about one guy in this match. What are you doing? Because Punk actually gives Axel the GTS and puts him out, and Heyman's yelling at him while he's on his back.
Yes, I said the same thing. I was like, well, actually, Punk was the one that picked up at Axel.
Yeah. So that didn't make sense to me. And then Punk is about to go win the match, and then Heyman comes in the ring and basically bashes him with chairs. And at some point, Punk starts bleeding. I couldn't figure out where it was from. Did he hit his face on the ladder?
I think one of the ladders had to hit him from the face. Like he was gashing blood.
Yeah, because it actually looked like a blade job.
Yeah, well,
that's how much blood was coming out.
Yeah, I think one of the those ladders are metal, like full on metal. So that just nailed him right in the face.
And then the third main story that they were telling was, the RVD story. The match starts, and all 5 guys basically look at each other and go like, "Who's this TNA jabroni?" And they just start kicking his ass, and they throw him out. And then he's about to come back in, and I think it was Daniel Bryan or Punk push him back out, and he bangs back into the ladders. And then he basically got to do just about everything except for the Van Terminator and the Van Daminator, which probably he can't do anymore because they involve drop kicking chairs into people's faces. And so, he does the frog splash off the top of the ladder. He does the somersault stuff. He does the sidekick off the top rope. So he got to do just about everything, and the crowd loved it. At some point, they were sort of teasing that he was going to win, but he didn't win. He didn't really come close to winning. The one guy who was absolutely not over in this match, more so than anybody else, was Sheamus. They did not like
Sheamus is boring as sin.
So one of the best spots in the match is Sheamus and Daniel Bryan are on the top of the ladder. They're fighting to get to the briefcase. Daniel Bryan punches him. The crowd says yes. Sheamus punches him back. The crowd says no. Like, they didn't miss a spot either. Like, they didn't miss a beat. Like they were perfectly in sync. And then Sheamus does he does that forearm spot on Daniel Bryan's chest, and the crowd's just chanting no, no, no every time. I thought that was awesome. Couple other things were actually I think we pretty much got it all. I think the thing that kind of stood out was Orton. He was there. I mean, he was involved in some of the spots, but sort of like in the Ambrose thing, is he kind of laid low so that the finish would kind of come out as a surprise, because I think most people thought, okay, Bryan's going to win, and then they thought, oh man, Punk's going to win. But I think Orton would have been really low on everybody else's list. And so when he won, it was a bit of a surprise. I think it was a bit anticlimactic too, especially to that live crowd. Like at my place, like there was a couple, like I was fine with it because I sort of knew like what they could do. But a couple of other people were like, Randy Orton again. Like, how did you feel?
I was just like, really? Well, when Orton came out, I'm like, God, this would be the worst guy. If he wins this match, I'll be like, I'll quit wrestling. And then Sheamus came out. I'm like, oh, well, if Sheamus wins, then I'll definitely quit, because that'd be the worst guy to win. So thankfully, Sheamus didn't win, but so Orton wins, and I was just like, really? We're going to go with this guy again, like the second worst guy in the match? That's the one we're going to go with? I mean, Randy Orton's had more opportunities and pushes than Marty Jannetty. I mean, my God. Just, I can't get into Orton unless they do what I said, that Heyman now manages Randy Orton.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there has to be a heel turn involved here. But the problem with the heel turn is that it immediately sets up the idea that they could do him and Cena, and I don't think people are ready to see that again.
No one is ever ready to see that again. That was like 2007, 2008. All, like, every pay-per-view match was those guys. So, not ready for that ever again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see the match because I think they've gone away from it so long that if you do it as like a special match, I think it could be okay, and they generally work okay together. But I do not think anybody is ready for a John Cena, Randy Orton 3-month run. Like, it just can't happen. So that's why I was thinking, okay, well, maybe Daniel Bryan gets involved, and that's how they do this thing. Maybe there's a 3-way at SummerSlam with the 3 of them. I don't know. But I could see there being some synergy there because of the fact that Bryan and Orton have worked so well in the past. And then there's the Orton and Cena stuff. And then, Cena. I think Cena and Bryan have only wrestled a couple matches. And from what I remember, Cena beat him pretty quickly. So we'll see. I guess the main thing, I wasn't surprised, but I wanted to see it happen, was no Brock Lesnar. I wanted to see him come in and take out Punk, and that would be the reason for Punk to not win. But instead, they used Heyman, which I guess it's a little bit of a surprise because I thought they were going to keep playing Heyman as like the smarmy character who no one in the crowd believes, but Punk just believes because he believes in his friendship more than anything else. And they turned Heyman immediately, so instead of having to decide which corner he's going to be in, Brock Lesnar or CM Punk, he has now chosen.
Yeah, well, Brock's his first client that has the most success, out of anyone. It's just Punk and them had a great relationship from 2006 on, but he's no Brock. Heyman's been there for him, not only WWE, but UFC. Friendships for life. But yeah, I agree. I really wanted to see Brock be the one to run in and just F5 him, and then Heyman and Brock leave together.
Yeah, and I guess, Heyman's promo tomorrow is probably something to the effect of, CM Punk broke up with me. I didn't break up with CM Punk. It may be like a really like a boyfriend-girlfriend thing because I can see Heyman doing a really good really good promo about feeling like that, he felt that Punk didn't want him and thus, he had to make his decision and he had to stay loyal to his guys. And I can see that. I think it'll be really good. I just didn't think it was going to happen so quickly.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? SummerSlam is before you know it. It'll be here.